wabarakatuh. Ketemu lagi dengan Krida Info. Halo, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jumpa lagi dengan Krida Info. Oke teman, saya akan kembali membahas IKN, Ibu Kota Negara Nusantara, di Penajam Utara, Kalimantan Timur. Oke teman, seperti halnya proyek-proyek Pak Jokowi yang sebelum-sebelumnya, di mana Pak Jokowi membangun bandara, kemudian juga pelabuhan, irigasi, kemudian juga perbatasannya PLBN dengan negara lain, kemudian juga jalan tol, jalan raya, termasuk kereta cepat Jakarta-Bandung, semua dinyinyirin, semua dicemooh, semua dianggap proyek gagal. Nah, demikian juga halnya mengenai IKN ini. Saat ini banyak sekali yang mencemooh, banyak sekali yang mengkritik, banyak sekali yang tidak setuju. Ya karena apa? Karena memang belum diketahui seperti apa jadinya. Seperti halnya kereta cepat, asalnya dinyirin, asalnya dicemooh, asalnya dikritik habis-habisan. Tetapi kenyataannya hari ini begitu orang-orang menyambut luar biasa, dan ini mengangkat martabat negara kita Indonesia di depan negara-negara lain, baik itu Asia Tenggara maupun dunia. Karena apa? Karena memang seperti kereta cepat Jakarta-Bandung ini diekspos, kemudian juga mereka pada datang pengen nyoba. Karena apa? Karena teknologi yang digunakan bus ini adalah teknologi terkini. Sama halnya dengan yang ada di Cina sana. Antara Shanghai ke Beijing itu menggunakan kereta yang sama, teknologi yang sama, teknologi terkini yang sangat mutakhir. Nah, demikian juga IKN nanti. IKN adalah nanti jadi kota yang smart city, kota modern, semua ramah lingkungan. Kalian juga yang nyinyirin sekarang, mungkin nanti kalianlah yang pelangap-pelongo nantinya, bahwa Indonesia nantinya pasti kalian juga akan merasakan Indonesia akan jauh lebih maju dibanding 10 tahun yang belakang. Oke teman, saya akan perlihatkan video kali ini yang menyatakan atau pemberitaan dari India kalau nggak salah mengenai proyek IKN ini. Oke, jangan kemana-mana, tetap di Krida Info, check it out.
Indonesia is building a new capital on the island of Borneo called Nusantara. It is expected to be fully ready by 2045. But the plan is to have some government institutions move to it from early next year. President Joko Widodo has been a major backer of the project and just last month was in Singapore to encourage private investors to foot a majority of the $32 billion price tag.
So, I suggest you, don't wait too long. Don't just sit and watch. This is a golden opportunity that is very captivating in Indonesia, which all of you can be part of. Everything will be fine. No need to worry. Your investment in Indonesia will continue to be safe, and also the continuity of Nusantara capital cities development.
Nusantara is being developed because the current capital, Jakarta, is sinking. Rising sea levels coupled with subsidence have clouded Jakarta's long-term prospects. Also, the government argues Indonesia needs to redistribute economic prosperity. Currently, this is concentrated on the main island of Java. But it's an economic argument not everyone is convinced of.
This is where airplanes could soon touch down. A VIP runway is the latest item on a long wish list from Indonesia's president for the country's new capital. Some 7,000 workers are currently busy laying the foundations for a number of official buildings in what is still a vast eucalyptus forest. This is what about 5 to 10% of a presidential dream looks like. Slowly but surely, Indonesia's new capital is emerging from the ground on the island of Borneo. Over here, you have the presidential palace being built. And this is where the presidential residences will be. Nusantara is President Joko Widodo's flagship project and is envisioned as a green, smart city. But with a whooping $32 billion price tag, some investors have expressed concern that development may lose momentum after the end of Widodo's final term in office next year. The main opposition party in Jakarta is not surprised.
What we need are new centers of economic growth, not a new palace. We aren't pessimistic, we're realistic. The business world only cares if their investment will multiply. Until now, there is no study that shows that people who invest there will get benefits.
The government disagrees. Officials at the building site claim they have already received over 100 letters of interest. That is crucial because the private sector is supposed to foot 80% of the bill for the new capital.
The investors would love to see that the government goes first, right? So that's why most of the buildings, facilities in 2024 is being built by the state budget. That to create market confidence, right? But after that one, I believe that there will be a lot of investors that will come. Some of them are still wait and see, but safe to say that the appetite is there.
The construction of the new capital began in mid-2022, the government arguing that Jakarta was congested and sinking. This dam, being built just above the new capital, is supposed to prevent such problems. The plan is now to officially declare Nusantara Indonesia's new capital in the first half of 2024, just before a new Indonesian president is sworn in and potentially boards a plane to fly here.
And joining me now for more context from Jakarta is Eka Permanasari. She's an associate professor in urban design and architecture at Monash University, Indonesia. Eka, Jakarta is sinking, so Indonesia needs a new capital, but the government also says the country needs new economic centers away from the main island of Java. How does constructing a new capital ensure that?
Well, constructing a new capital, of course, is a big task. And the new aim for this new capital city is to create a new economic centers following the Jakarta. Yeah, I mean, like we have some problems in Jakarta and we would like to create this new super hubs. But of course, we need such an infrastructure development, business incentives, and attracting industries and investment to play a crucial role in ensuring the growth and prosperity of the new capital. Now, if we are looking at the case study of this IKN, the plan is in 2025 to 2035, the master plan shows that they will build this IKN economic super hub, which its vision is to be realized through 6 economic clusters. This is how they plan to do it. And of course, there will be like, for examples like the next gen renewable manufacture, integrated pharmaceutical cluster, sustainable agri-industry, and so on. And as you can see that this economic super hub is expected to be benefit from also partner regions in Kalimantan, in other neighboring cities. But look, this cannot be happening without the support of the investors. As you can see, we know that in order to build this capital, the funding from the government cannot stand alone. It needs private sectors to invest on this.
And I did want to talk to you about that because the government wants some 80% of the project costs, which is something like $32 billion to be borne by private investors. In fact, we had the president in Singapore just last month speaking to private investors, asking them to invest. My simple question really is, how excited is the private sector? Are they putting in the money?
That's very difficult because at the moment, I think the government is trying so hard to get the investors. But let's see how this is laid out in terms of the planning and also in terms of the regulations. Based on the presidential regulations number 17, 2022, now this IKN can be funded by state budget, but also by the private budget. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's 80% is from relies on this private budget. Of course, there are some sentiments. Yeah, this has raised concerns about the potential conflict of interest and also influence that the wealthy individuals or corporations may have over the development of the new capital. And also about the long-term sustainability, relying heavily on the private funding. But without these private investors, of course, Indonesia cannot build its own capital. At the moment, it seems that the government is trying so hard, but so far as I know, we haven't the Indonesian government haven't closed any kind of deal. I think the last investor backed off. So we haven't seen that, the new investors coming. But interestingly enough, while the private sector is expected to contribute significant portions of the funding, there have been some challenges, in securing this investment. Now, what we can see, there are some changes in the government as well. Like, say, for instance, to attract the investors, government made several funding schemes, for instance, for instance, like the Government and Business Corporation, or KPBU, in Indonesian term, investment cooperation between the government and state-owned company or private companies, international fundings, special tax incentives, for instance, and all these kind of new facilities that the government offers. So it is interesting to see how these things being laid out, and whether this is going to be happening or not, whether we can successfully attract the investors or not.
I was going to ask you to look into your crystal ball and speculate as to where this is going to go, but I can imagine that's going to be a difficult question to answer. Let's just talk about Jakarta, because you have worked in Jakarta and you have worked on the subsidence problem in Jakarta, the fact that Jakarta is sinking and that's why the new capital is being built. My question to you is, what happens to Jakarta in the interim? I mean, does it eventually sink into the seas, or will people continue living in Jakarta?
Well, the fact that Jakarta is sinking, that it's undeniable, and unfortunately, there hasn't been any concrete effort in order to rescue the city. There are some, so for instance, new pipelines, to provide clean water, but the land subsidence is really severe, especially in certain points. Now, I know this is a political years, because we are changing the presidency by next year, but there has to be a concrete plan in order to rescue Jakarta. The fact that people who are moving to the new capital are not Jakartans, especially the first stage is mostly for the civil servants, the army, the police, and so on. So it's not fair for Jakartan people to suffer more, for the flood and also for other disparities, that's happening in this sinking city.
Overall, Eka, if you look at the country and Jakartans in particular, how much support is there for this move to a new capital?
Yes. Look, I've seen that in the special planning regulation that they have some plans what happened to Jakarta after the relocation of the new capital. So there might be some changes in terms of the building use, for instance, and all that. So those are the special regulations or special planning regulations that has been issued. But other than that, what I can see is the main problems of Jakarta land subsidence and also the flood. I don't see anything at the moment. I don't see anything is in a concrete plan. Apart from the making the new pipeline. We did have that kind of a plan to create this seawall, for instance. But even so, that's being implemented at the moment.
We'll leave it there for the time being, but always a pleasure talking to you. Eka Permanasari from the Monash University in Indonesia. Thanks so much.
Ya teman, tentu saja kita harus mengapresiasi apa yang diupayakan untuk mengangkat harkat derajat bangsa ini. Apa yang dilakukannya begitu tulusnya, karena beliau sudah menjanjikan untuk membawa Indonesia ke arah lebih baik, ke arah kemajuan. Kalau saja misalnya kalian netral saja seperti saya sekarang ini, saya netral. Siapapun yang berbuat baik, berbuat sesuatu untuk bangsa ini, kita dukung. Apalagi Pak Jokowi, hasil daripada pemilu. Kalian harus menerima, namanya demokrasi. Nah, demokrasi itu siapapun yang terpilih karena yang terbanyak dipilih oleh rakyat Indonesia harus menerima. Pemilu ini adalah bukti demokrasi kita. Jadi kita berbeda pendapat, kita berbeda pilihan. Dengan adanya pemilu kita harus sepakat gitu. Harus sepakat siapapun yang terpilih, jangan mengada-ngada. Jangan katakanlah pemilu tidak jujur, apalah. Itu urusan orang elit. Kalian juga tidak akan tahu seperti apa. Yang jelas siapapun yang terbaik untuk bangsa ini, kita dukung. Apapun hasilnya pemilu nanti, kita dukung. Apresiasi. Kita harus menerimanya apa yang terjadi. Walaupun dukungan kita kalah, ya kita harus menerima. Siapapun yang menang, kita harus dukung. Itulah demokrasi. Itulah yang terpilih oleh kebanyakan orang Indonesia. Buat apa ada pemilu kalau misalnya kalian masih nyinyir terus, masih tidak menerima karena jagoan kalian kalah? Ya buktinya kalian jagoan kalian kalah, kemudian juga masuk ke Pak Jokowi sekarang. Kalian buktinya kan apa yang kalian agung-agungkan, Pak Prabowo adalah yang terbaik. Buktinya kan sekarang kalian musuhi. Buktinya kan kalian tidak puas. Politik itu tidak ada kawan sejati, tidak ada lawan abadi. Kalian harus tahu itu. Saya netral. Kalau misalnya ada pejabat Indonesia yang terbukti memang mengangkat harkat derajat bangsa ini, kita dukung. Nah itu dia. Oke, mudah-mudahan video kali ini bisa sedikit mencerahkan hati kalian ya, bahwa demokrasi itu yang namanya kalah dan menang itu biasa gitu. Kalian jangan sakit hati terus sampai saat ini. Oke teman, mudah-mudahan konten kali ini bisa sedikit menyadarkan kita semuanya bahwa kita memang harus, apapun harus bisa menerima hasil pemilu nanti. Jagoan saya kalah tahun 2024, tidak apa-apa. Karena apa? Bagaimanapun itu adalah kita sudah melaksanakan demokrasi. Kita sudah andil, sudah ikut memilih. Tapi hasilnya kita harus bisa menerima. Apapun hasilnya, jagoan saya kalah, kemudian jagoan orang lain yang menang, ya kita terima aja dan kita dukung gitu. Kemudian juga mereka yang tentunya pasti akan memberikan yang terbaik buat bangsa ini. Oke teman, demikianlah informasinya. Mudah-mudahan informasi ini bermanfaat buat kita. Saya tutup saja. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dadah teman, terima kasih. Salam dari Bandung, Sarangeo.